In the name of our Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer. Amen. Well, good morning, Episcopal Diocese of Spokane. It's a real treat and honor to be sharing with you all our liturgy, our worship, the ways in which we at Creator's Table have gathered together as a community, as Katie shared earlier, for the past 2 years or so. Can't believe it's already been that long. But we're really grateful to be able to share some of our community and how we are formed together, and the ways in which we take the structures of our liturgical tradition and adapt them and create within them to develop a liturgy that's formational and worshipful for our community. And I want to offer gratitude as well to Bishop Gretchen for inviting us to share and to give you all a bit of a peek into who we are as a community, and then also to just be in common worship with you all this morning. So again, as Katie shared earlier, we hope that you take what you like and simply ponder those pieces that maybe you're like, I don't really like that, or that's really strange, because we do some strange things in our community, but it's all for the glory of God. At least that's our intention and our hope. So I'll be offering what we call a reverb. And we don't call it a sermon or a homily, we call it a reverb because immediately afterwards we take space that we call open space for people then to reflect on the thoughts that are offered. So these are not necessarily clean homilies, and our hope in saying that is that we hope it creates a reverberation within us that we want to listen to, and hopefully it helps us ask more questions, ask better questions, and be more participatory in the sermon. But given the platform that we have right now, this will be a little bit more of a traditional sermon, but we hope it's thought-provoking, and we'll create some space at the end of this to allow you to reflect and ask some questions of yourself in terms of what these texts mean for you, and what my thoughts maybe stir up within you. Today's gospel is a continuation of the farewell conversation that Jesus begins to have with his followers and with his friends, with his disciples, before he's about ready to leave this earthly plane, to go through his passion, and the resurrection. And he's offering a sense of, I think, comfort for his followers before he leaves, even though they may not understand what exactly is going on. And so this discourse began last week. It continues for 3 chapters in John, and he's kind of preparing his people before he leaves. And for John's community, you know, they live in a time well after Jesus' passing and resurrection and ascension, and decades later. And they were probably asking some really difficult questions in terms of where is God, and how do we live with hope? How do we live the resurrection? And they find themselves in a context, in a situation where they have lost their temple. They've lost their primary place of gathering and of worship, that has been destroyed. They are people that are persecuted. They have not been accepted into the society as an accepted religious practice. So they are part of a community that's simply called the Way, And as we read in last week's reading from Acts, they were severely persecuted. And so there would have been some serious questions about what does this look like for us to live this way. And I think also maybe there's something about how this community is losing their living memory of their Messiah, of their rabbi. There probably are not many in their community left who have first or second degree relationship with Jesus. And so John's community is writing this gospel, this letter, I think to really bring some comfort into that space of probably some significant doubt and significant wondering. So to hear the words of Jesus that I will not leave you orphaned would have been, I think, a tremendous comfort and a very powerful witness to them to continue to keep the faith and to keep going. I believe that same hope and that same power is available to us today. I would imagine there are many of us who feel like we're asking some similar questions, and our contexts are different, and time is different. It's 2,000 years later, roughly, but we're now without church buildings. We are now without the rituals that we're used to. We're now without the sacraments that we're used to having. And we have been a people that have, that we experience significant division amongst us on a regular basis. And now that division looks like, how do we reopen our businesses? How do we reopen our churches? How do we gather together? How do we protect the most vulnerable amongst us, while also not allowing our economy to completely fall apart? These are difficult questions, and these are difficult times, and they're times that none of us have seen before. And so for us to be asking the question, where is God? I think it's an important question, and it's a valuable question, and it's one that we need to ask. Are we alone in this? And where do we find hope? These are difficult questions and difficult circumstances, and John's community were in very similar difficult circumstances. And so in this particular passage, Jesus begins by what we now say is laying out kind of a Trinitarian concept for us, or a Trinitarian theology. That would not have been the case early on, but Jesus saying, I need to leave, and yet another version of me, kind of, is going to come and be with you. And this paraclete is the Greek word that's used, and it can be translated lots of different ways. The NRSV, which is what we use on Sunday by Sunday basis, and in our lectionary, says the word advocate. You'll find other translations that use the word comforter, and you'll find other translations that use the word counselor. There's lots of different ways in English to represent what this paraclete is. This paraclete, this spirit of truth, this true being that resides within us, has different roles. It does different things for us at different times, and so Jesus says, I need to leave, and I'm not going to leave you orphaned, but I'm going to make space to come into you in a new way, as an advocate, as a comforter, as a counselor. And these different words have different connotations. We think of advocates as people who stand with us, and as people who help us not feel so alone, especially when things are difficult, or when when we have to tell the truth about something, and an advocate is there to be witness to that truth. We need advocates in our life, and we need to be advocates for others. And God is with us as an advocate. God is with us as comforter. And I know many of us long to experience the comfort of the sacraments and of the rituals and of our church community, and certainly being online together is helpful, but it doesn't do everything that we need or that we want. And so God as comforter is there to provide the stability and the security and the safety that we long for. And God as counselor, the Paraclete as counselor, is this Spirit of truth, is the one who's with us, that provides us the wisdom that we need to live the way of Jesus in the way that he's called us to do. And in a world that's so divided right now, wisdom is something that we deeply need, and something that I think many of us long for. And so yes, Jesus says, I am leaving, but I'm not leaving you orphaned. That I will always be with you, no matter the circumstances and no matter how difficult things are, and no matter what is taken away from you or what you have to give up, because I love you. And so he says, keep my commandments. And I think that this is the way in which we experience and we know the love of God, that we know the love of Jesus by keeping his very commands, which were ultimately always to love others, to love self, to love our enemies even. This is the way that we love God, and the way that God loves us and loves the world through us, is that we are able to keep that command of loving others. The way of love is what keeps us connected. It's what keeps us connected to God. It's what keeps us connected to each other. So while we don't have our church buildings and we don't have our sacraments, we do have love. And that is the ultimate, I guess, sacramental way of being together. Jesus' new command to us was to love each other by washing each other's feet. How do we serve and love others in a new way in this world? Today is a day that we celebrate also the life of Thurgood Marshall. He's in our rota as a person that we celebrate, and I love that his feast day, if it were, as it were, is today, because I think he's an example of what it looks like to have the Spirit of truth. He was a lawyer, and he was ultimately the first Black person to serve on the Supreme Court as a justice. He championed civil rights, and he fought against segregation even as a student before he became a lawyer and started practicing law. He won 29 of the 32 Supreme cases that he argued in, and of course his most famous one was Brown versus the Board of Education, which paved the way for equal access and opportunity for education for all students, and for all children. And so we see that this Spirit of truth is a real thing. Dr. Cornel West likes to say that justice is what love looks like in public. And to live with the Spirit of truth is to live with a sense of justice. And justice is a way of expressing our love for humanity and for the earth in a way that bears witness to the fact that we are not orphaned and that we have an advocate that is with us. So I would invite us on this 6th Sunday of Easter to reflect upon what it feels like and what it looks like to have an advocate with us, to know that the Spirit of God is with us in a way that that does not leave us orphaned, but is actually standing alongside us, to have a comforter who is with us, making sure that we feel the sense of stability and security that we need to grow and to live as humans faithfully in this world, and to have a counselor who teaches us and shows us the way of truth and the way of life that he has called us to live into and to live for others and to bear witness to. So I'll invite us for a couple minutes to reflect on that question of what is an advocate for you, and what does God as advocate in your life, God as comforter, God as counselor, what does that look like for you in your life? Amen.